Episode 107, Finding Out Who You Really Are After 50 with Jackie Swainson.
Welcome to Latter-day Life Coaches, the podcast where each episode is a conversation between me, Heather Rackham, and one of my amazing coach colleagues. Each coach here is a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and a highly trained, experienced life coach making a great impact in the lives of their clients. And together, we have one main goal, helping you live your best life no matter what. You ready for this conversation with a coach? Here we go.
As women in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, we often feel our worth and purpose is solely tied to our children. And so when they leave the house and are not an everyday and every moment focus, women can feel lost and wonder what their purpose is now. Coach Jackie Swainson wants women to know that life after children can be amazing, full of purpose, and that there are great things ahead. It is a time where they can start to clean out unhealthy thoughts, start believing in themselves more, and free themselves of the thick things that can often weigh them down. Getting older is a time of expansion and where women can really grow and be a force for so much good. If you found yourself at this stage of life and know that you have more to give to others and the world at large, take a listen to this podcast and then go sign up to work with Jackie. You truly are meant for so much greatness.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the podcast today. I am lucky enough to get to have Jackie Swainson with me. Jackie is one of the coaches on the directory that lives in Canada as well. We seem to have this little pocket of coaches. So it's always kind of fun. And this is what I always listen for. There's a few words that I can tell somebody is from Canada when I talk with them. So I'm going to listen to see if I can hear them today. But anyway, Jackie, before we get started, thank you for being here.
Oh, you're very welcome. It's my pleasure.
I am so excited to have this conversation with you. Can you just go ahead and introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about you.
Okay, so my name is Jackie Swainson. I live just outside of a beautiful town called Red Deer. I live out in the country, about 20 minutes away. I am active in the church. I have been active in going to the temple, and the gospel is the center of my being. I was raised in Red Deer by a wonderful family. None of them are members, but they're wonderful. And so when I heard the gospel, I was very prepared to, I was very prepared to latch onto that. And I have been blessed in my life to be able to serve in the church in some very incredible ways. And I know that those callings were for me. And I spent most of my 20s working with the youth and in the ward in the stake. And then I spent time as the primary president, young women's president. So those were my eyes wide open. That was new to me, like how this serving things work and how callings work. But I learned a lot about relationships and how to work with people. And then in my 30s, I spent most of that time as a ward relief society president and stake relief society president. And I learned by surrounding myself with women who were very experienced and knowledgeable and that I looked up to. And so I learned from other women who were of that certain age that I wasn't. I was 30, they were 40 and 50. And that was really good for me. In my 40s, I served a couple missions did a family history mission with my daughter, Jessica, to give her a chance to do a mission. We served it at home. And we had a group leader from Salt Lake City and we worked the helplines. And that was an amazing experience, getting to immerse yourself in family history and see the importance of the connections that we make now and take into they're part of our eternal life. And also had the opportunity to work for about 10 years in the addiction recovery program, serving a mission that was only supposed to be 2 years, but lasted for that long. And we worked with people we served people with addictions and their families and trying to work and help them, try to put their lives back together, set boundaries, set goals and have Christ at the center of what they were doing. And boy, did I learn a lot of compassion and empathy for people and the situations that they get in. And And that was a tremendous experience for both my husband and myself. And so at my very core, I truly believe right now, I'm a woman of over 50, obviously. I'm in the best time of my life because I've just been prepared for this. It's sort of like Esther. I've come for this time. And I've always wanted to give back what was so generously given to me. And I kept journals, I kept records. I found, I've sort of got my belief statement about myself, which I can share. And that's what guides and directs me in wanting to reach out to women. And I've seen so much. So when I started taking the courses of becoming a life coach, I kept that focus on thinking always, okay, how does this work? How can I do this? How can I help this? Because I knew as a woman, I struggle and with aging and with reaching this point. And so for me, having to gone through that struggle, watching women struggle, I just want to help them. I just want to help them to know that this is the time of your life, sort of to reignite your faith, your belief in yourself, find who you really are, because your roles are all gone and changed. You're still a mother and a grandmother, but you're not in the thick of things with your children. And you have so much wisdom and so much inside of you that we just need to reorganize and shuffle what's in your head and get you to believe it. And so that's what I love to do.
Oh, I love that you referenced Esther. That scripture is actually one of my favorites for such a time as this. And yes, you're at a stage in your life, and we all have gone through different stages, and we were prepared for that specific time. It's not that was being prepared to live this particular stage of my life, or that you were being prepared to just live, the women of a certain age, which is what you reference yourself right now. I just love contemplating what it is today. Like, what is it that I was prepared for today? What am I being prepared for tomorrow? And remembering that it's not huge things. It's the small things, right? It's the small things of like, who needs me to hold their hand today? Who needs me to smile at them? Like, it's just the small things. But that, and then also for me, I'm 47. I'm entering this phase where
young thing, you.
Thank you. But half of my kids have left the house, and it is kind of I'm seeing this reorganization, this structure, maybe in some way. And it's really interesting to realize how young I feel, how much life experience I have, and how little life experience I've actually had, and how much still lies ahead of me. And that really is exciting to think about.
I'll tell you about the certain age quote is for my grandmother. My grandmother was born in 1905, and she was one of the great ladies. Like, she was raised with white gloves. And I know how to set a table for breakfast, lunch, brunch. If the king and queen came to visit me, I could set it, practice that at her house. Like, that was our time. But she always said, after you reach a certain age, you don't talk about your age. You're just a woman of a certain age. So, and I love that. It reminds me of her, but it also is it just of a certain age, because I'm more certain now about who I am than I was during all the busyness of being a mother and all the other things that encompassed. And I'm certain about me. So it's for me, it's a spiritual thing as well, not just a certain age. It's not an age. It means I'm certain of who I am now and who I'm becoming. My one friend I've known forever, and she said, you do this life coaching thing. Can I just grab you for 1 sec? And I said, sure, absolutely. I'd love to talk. She said, I never thought right now at this time in my life, I think she's probably 72, 73, that my life would be like this. I had a different plan for what my family would be doing, and the temple trips we'd be doing, and all the things that we're doing. And I'm in the wrong life. And, her kids have made different choices. And there's a lot of that happening within the church today. A generation of people are kind of choosing to leave, or to take a step, or take a break, and finding themselves, or recognizing, saying, I can be a good person. I don't have to go to church. I have that experience in my family with some of my children. And she says, I just don't know what to do. And I said, well, you know, your kids have to work that part out, but you need to love them for who they are. They are good people. Let them know that you love them without telling them they shouldn't be doing this. They shouldn't, that time's passed as a parent. And you need to just follow your path, stay on your path, stay on your path and be true to what you know, and you'll be blessed by doing that. What will happen with your family and children? Well, you'll be an example. They'll still love you. They'll respect you for respecting them. Who knows what'll happen? But don't leave your path because you think it's not where you should be. And that's the problem with women. A lot of us in the church, we start off and we think we're going to have this life of children and family and everything just great. And things, you know, start to fall apart a bit because things happen, life happens. You know, we might catch ourselves one day looking in the mirror and think, what happened? Like, how did this become who I am? Because we pay so little attention to ourselves when we're in our 20s, 30s, and 40s. We're so busy giving and serving others, trying to carve out time for ourselves that we neglect ourselves. Mm-hmm. And so it's sometimes a surprise that I'm here now. What do I do? And a lot of anxiety comes from that.
Yeah. On me as you're talking, it was interesting to me that she said, I'm in the wrong life. Like I'm living the wrong life now. And it's when we look to the people outside of us and the choices they're making, when it can feel like this isn't the life I planned on. But when we can keep our eyes on ourselves and what our goals are, who we want to be, how we want to show up in situations, that's when it's a little bit easier for us to recognize our life, right? Like that's when we're able to see, actually, I'm living the right life. I'm in the right place. This is my life. This is how I want it to be, because we can't control any of the other things. Like we're always going to be in the wrong life if we're looking to everybody outside of us.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And as women, we tend to want to control everybody else's life because that's what we do when they're little. And then, you know, transitioning from a parent of a child to the parent of an adult child is a different relationship. It can't be the same. You're not the person saying, do this, do that. You're the friend, you're the confidant, you're the person who supports them, who loves them, the one place that they know that they can go and just be loved no matter what they're doing in their life. So yeah, it's a tough transition.
That is a hard transition. It is. And I'm seeing it, like I said, now in my life, I have some tools. I'm lucky enough to be surrounded by people like you and have learned a lot of things that I think are helping to make that easier for me. But it definitely, even with all of those tools and the things that, you know, I'm able to focus on, it still is a challenge. It
is. And it always will be, right? To the very end. It's called eternal life.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't stop.
Yeah.
So once all these things are done and you're at a certain age, there's still lots of work to do on ourselves. Like, you know, maybe we're getting closer to the plateau, but we're never going to get there till we are reunited with our Father in heaven. And we need to remember that, you know, our Jesus Christ is the God of possible, not impossible. He's the God of possible. So I'm just going to read you what I share with my clients. All things can be accomplished by him and through him. So whatever we're doing, he can be our partner. Because of him and for him, when I pray for another, I can call down all the powers of heaven and bless the lives of someone else. I can plead with sincerity and certainty for the good of someone else. I can ask to help carry their burden and share the walk of their life. I can ask for strength for them and for the strength I may need to carry them. I can love, I can serve, I can be his hands. I can because he is. And so that's something that I've had that written down for years and years since I kind of first discovered from a Relief Society lesson about how we are his hands. But that gives me purpose to know that I am of value and worth, and I'm at this stage in my life and I have the freedom of time and energy to do those things. And so if I can focus on those things, I'm tethered to the Lord, my soul is filled, and I can be a light to other people. Not me, but the Spirit can light me and shine through other people. So we lose that a bit when we're in the thick of things, but now let's get back to that and really live that.
Yeah, so good. You referred to be living in the thick of things. I want to know, I've seen in my life, it does get a little bit less chaotic, but does the thick of things ever really go away? Do you just replace it with other things?
Well, it depends on your personality and what is important to you. So for me, family is incredibly important. So right now, helping my parents is the thick of things. Like, I'm right in it. I'm the kid that's here. I got one brother on one side of the country, a sister on the other country. So I'm the go-to person. So I'm in that. I've got a lot of my grandchildren live close by. So they're always around. So I'm still in it, but not in the same way. I'm at a distance, and I'm grandma. I mean, they love me for no other reason than I'm here. That fills me up. I have daughters. I have a daughter who went through a really horrible divorce. And I literally, for 3 years, I said to her, I'm not going to let you fall. I'm not going to let you go. And I carried her for those 3 years. Like, I found the strength because of the Lord. And I have an anxiety disorder. So it was a prime thing for me to just be totally just like, but I was peaceful. I was strong. Middle of the night phone calls didn't bother me. And she came through. Got another daughter who has some mental health issues. So no, it doesn't go away. It just changes. But your capacity to deal with it can be better because it's not, if you tend to yourself. So this is the time to really step into who you are, find out who you are, find out what you believe, get rid of all the, closet, clean out some of your closets about some of the beliefs that you have about yourself or about growing older, things you might have to deal with, sort of take aside and process, clean it out so that you can remember the good things, believe in yourself, live by your values. I haven't been able to get free of the thick things yet, but I have a different attitude about them.
Yeah, I wonder if part of that, and as I was recording a podcast episode with April Price last week, she was talking about, and I really loved this perspective, that we think that, like, as we get older and wiser, like, we have less pain or more hardship in our life. And the truth of it is that it's still the same. Maybe sometimes there's more, but we've learned how to handle the pain, and we've learned how to handle the hardship in more productive ways. And so maybe it's not quite as stifling. We don't linger in it, in the hard times of it, as quite as long, because we've learned how to move through it, to use it in our life rather than to completely push it away all the time.
Yeah,
I mean, that was an interesting way to look at it.
She's right on. I mean, you have to deal with reality. And age brings some realities that sometimes aren't wonderful. I mean, our bodies can quickly change. We deal more with loss as we get older. Like, those things do happen. But my focus and what I do is like, just reignite your life. Like, just your connection to the Lord, your connection to yourself. Live in that space and walk with the Lord. Use the gospel, become the spiritual, find your spiritual strength. And that, I think we realize as women, as we get older, that is what carries us through whatever happens to us or to others or in our lives. I mean, I realize I need that more than I have ever needed it.
I love the word that you use in reignite. That really kind of gives me a great visual. And sometimes I even think it for sure is reignite, but it's almost like just even discovering that full light, because I think there's parts of me that I have not yet discovered yet. And so just that enthusiasm to figure out all the things about me and reignite kind of that youthful fire that we have to keep moving forward.
Well, and we've all got that within us. We all belong to our Father in heaven. Every person has that fire in them somehow. We're all His. So when I do my whole program, I do, like I talk about, rediscover who you are, re-examine what you believe and how it manifests itself, renew your commitments, recreate who you are, recreate who you want to be. and then, celebrate all of those things. So we do the R work, rediscover, recreate, reevaluate, rewrite, whatever it is we do. And then we celebrate, because you go through those steps to come out that I know who I am and I know what I can do and I can celebrate myself. And we don't have to be so stuck on the fact that we are getting older.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not about how we look. It's not about how we dress. It's not about how young we look. We get wrinkles. That's life. But I always think about aging gracefully isn't the way we look. Aging gracefully is the way we are. So when we age gracefully, we are fully committed to the Savior. We have his grace with us. We know what we are. We know who we are. And we are here. The Lord needs us to be women of strong faith and to be a force for good in this world, because we have experience and knowledge and wisdom that a lot of people don't have. And especially in these days, you see more and more women shining in their communities of our age or my age, shining in their communities, doing work, being leaders, and drawing people together. So there's so much. Like, life isn't over. The best part of our life is not gone. When our kids are gone, that's a good part of our life. It's a wonderful part, but there's still so much more.
I was watching a news, I don't even remember what it was, but there was something I was watching the news last week, and it was talking about the average age of entrepreneurial women. And we tend to think that it's women in their 20s that are probably the people that are out there starting successful businesses. And actually, the average age was women. And this was the average. So mind you, there was more above and some below, like it was 48 or 50 was the average age of women that are starting strong, thriving businesses. And I thought that was so interesting and gives such light to the possibilities that we have. Like, there's so much that lies ahead of us still, that we can't just think, well, our best days are behind us, because that is so not true. And I'm curious, okay, you talked about the rework that you do, the rediscovery, renew. So you do that work looking back, right? Like, I'm sure there is probably a little bit looking to the past, a little bit about the rewriting. How do you stay focused, I think, on the present? How does relearning and focusing on these needs that we have help your clients, the ones you've worked with, and not only live there in the present, but also look to the future? Like, what does that look like for them as they...
Well, a lot of times we can't move forward if there's things that are dragging us and holding us back. We have to acknowledge the past. We have to give it the time it deserves, but not a lot of time. But everybody has something that I wish I would have, or I wish I could have, or sometimes there's trauma, that is tragedy that's happened, and they haven't finished processing it. And so we can do that without going back into years and years and years ago, because it was the past. And when we talk about being present in our lives, that's kind of the buzzword, right? Let's be present. How are we going to show up for our lives today? Being present, I think, means being engaged in whatever it is that you were doing at the time. We have eternal life. So we have to be present every day to reach that goal of being with our Father in heaven. We can't sit back and just let it happen. We need to be present, and we can't change anything that we do if we don't acknowledge it. We can't change anything if we don't understand it. We can't change the past, but we can refocus on how we are going to now move forward. For some people, it's not hard. For some people, it takes a little bit of soul searching to move past something that is kind of resolved. And if it's something that's really heavy for them, then I refer them to a psychologist. I've got a couple of friends that do that, to just work on the past. But you kind of have to unpack before you repack, right? So if you're going to clean out your closet, you kind of, what doesn't serve me well anymore, and then put back in what does serve you well. We can't live in the past. We plan for the future, but we can't wait for the future. So the only way, so I describe being present instead of being a buzzword, is the only way that we can live is present, showing up today having our plans for tomorrow or the next day, but showing up for today for ourselves and making those choices that are going to keep us where we want to be. If you make a mistake, fine, let's deal with it tomorrow. Let's deal with it when it's time, when we're there. But if we spend too much time in the past and too much time looking forward, we miss all the amazing things that we have to experience in our lives. Being present, yes, it's a buzzword, but I think it has a deeper meaning in a scriptural sense,
Well, and I think it's so interesting to think about that our present person, me standing here today, is the only person who can act and make choices that will affect me tomorrow and the day after, right? Like we really have to take care and be intentional with us today because it affects everything. I know that sounds very simplistic, but when you really think about that, it really serves us to just live in this moment, thinking about consequences, right? We have to think about how,
yes.
Like intentionally, what is this going to, my actions today, how is it going to affect me tomorrow? Is very important to think about, but we have to live today.
Yeah. So I have a coach who coaches me and she's amazing. She is so insightful, but she offered me last coaching session I had. She suggested something and I journal. And so and journaling isn't writing these great big long entries. It can be point form. So sometimes it's just thoughts that I've had. And she said, so here's a challenge for you. In the next week, instead of at the end of the day, writing about what happened on Sunday, after you're done your church, if you want, because that's a good time, sit down and sort of think about what's coming up in the next week. Look at your calendar, what you're doing, and sort of write down each day how you're going to show up for that day and make a commitment. So I've done that. And so I want to be able to, be thoughtful. I want to make decisions that are meaningful. I don't want to, be thrown off my game because something has happened. I want to be able to look at it and say, okay, I can do this. I'm going to be thoughtful. I'm going to not be reactive, and I'm going to, go with the plan. I'm not going to become stressed out. Different things that I put down. Now, when my dad fell, my mom phones in a panic. That's a prime thing to go, oh no, and to feel that panic. And I had written down, that's one of the goals for this week was no matter what happens to disrupt my day, it's not going to disrupt me. I'm going to handle it. I can handle it. I'll be, thoughtful. I'll make good decisions. I won't, go into that stress mode or that anxiety mode. Made a huge difference because I thought, okay, Mom, we're going to be okay. I'll be there in a little bit. In the meantime, do this, call 911, have them assess him. I'll be there in 20 minutes. We'll be fine, which is a very different reaction from me a couple of years ago. I would have just been freaking out, if you want to know the truth. That's my goal, to show up for the day, is to be, or if I've got a board meeting or something. So this is how I want to show up for that meeting in my mind frame. And so you can set the stage for your future actions. And sometimes it doesn't work, but if you do that and you sort of read it in the morning and say, okay, I'm set for today. This is my plan. This is what I'm going to do. I'm doing my best to, and if you keep that in your mind, you're sort of creating a future for yourself. That's what you want it to be. It really changed my perspective on dealing with life, because life happens and life can be very tragic very quickly. And those are the moments that we're all afraid of. That we're all afraid of losing someone. We're afraid of, the phone ringing in the middle of the night. We're afraid of things happening to people we love. And my goal is now to be able to show up for that person how they need me to be, not a mess, not, what I would have done 2 years ago or 3 years ago. That's being present, right? So you show up for what is needed at the moment. And sometimes you don't know when those moments come. So you have to always just put in your mind, who am I? What are my strengths? How am I going to be? And, live in that space.
Which is such an interesting thing to think about, because we have no idea what's going to happen in the future. We cannot plan, but you can plan for how you are going to act in unexpected situations.
Absolutely.
Which is what you just shared with us. And I think is so insightful and so important for all of us. So plan for the unexpected. How do I act? How do I behave in unexpected situations? And we can plan for uncertainty. And chances are we're not going to show up always exactly how we plan, but we have put some thought to it ahead of time. And even if we show up even a little bit more productively than we had we not made a plan, that plan was super helpful.
Right. And that's an emotional plan for coping with life. And for women of, of our age or my age, it's important to live in that space, because something's always happening that requires you. If you want to be of service and help, you have to have that in your mind, that you can be of service, you can help, you can, the Lord can hold your hand while you do something. You may not have the words, but whatever you do, he's right beside you, and you can draw on that strength. Like when you talk about certainty and uncertainty, so there's six human needs. And when I was taking these classes and studying, I was so intrigued that they were all, to me, part of the gospel plan. So there's certainty. Everybody likes to know certain things, and some people just love to live with certainty, where they know everything that's going to happen and no surprises. And if a surprise comes, they fall apart. So we can't stay in that state all the time. We have to know what uncertainty is, and life is uncertain. That's for sure. So you can't be a controller, and you can't be just a fly-by-nighter. You've got to find a balance. So uncertainty is where we find challenges. Uncertainty is where we find excitement. Uncertainty is where we find our creativity. There's a lot of things that we do that result in an adventure. Sometimes we refill our oil by doing something that's just spontaneous, and we don't know the outcome, but it's, we find joy in those experiences. And then there's significance. We all want to matter to someone. We all want to feel approval. We all want to feel that we're important. And then there's love and connection. We want to love and be loved. Spouses, family, friends, we want to be loved. We want to be connected to people. And those first four needs are very based on others. So we need others. And a lot of times we set up rules. I'll feel significant when they acknowledge that I've done all this work and treat me in a certain way. So you're actually stopping yourself from feeling really significant by having too many rules and how that will look. So you have to sort of, put a balance on it, because if you're only going to live in certainty, and when something uncertain happens, it breaks you up. All of those are kind of the universal needs that we have to live. I mean, that if you don't have love and connection, people will die earlier. There's the loneliness. Babies in orphanages don't flourish. They don't grow if they're not loved and cuddled and handled and being with. And then the last two needs are the ones that are, what are the results of all of this, and how we balance it is growth. We need to grow. We need to grow as a person. We need to grow intellectually. Spiritually is huge. We need to grow spiritually. And there's so many ways we can grow. We can grow with others. We can learn. We can, go to school. We can make new friends. We can expand our horizons by growth. And the last one is contribution, which is where we acknowledge that there is a reason. As far as I'm concerned, there's a reason for us to be here, and that is to contribute back to the Lord's children because of what we've been given. So if we can live in that space, that's where we really, really find ourselves, is in the growth and contribution. There's no rules. We're not waiting for someone to do something for us. We're doing those things. We're growing, we're sharing, we're helping, we're acknowledging there's a power that's higher than us. We have ways of meeting all those other needs that are serving us well. And then we can focus on, okay, this is why I say this is our time. This is our time to shine as women and as daughters of God and as members of the church, is to really shine, because we are needed. And, if somebody comes into my quilt shop and this is my happy place, I just love being here. I don't think it's because I'm standing there helping them. I think it's because we've created a friendship. and an atmosphere that's welcoming and caring and loving, and we have fun and we laugh. And so all these things, and that's a light, all that brings them to a light. And they don't know. I attribute it to the Spirit. They don't know that I've prayed that morning that let this be a light. Let me be a light. Let this place be a light. Let me share the light with others. Mm-hmm. Even if they don't know what it is, I want to touch their hearts in a way that they just feel happy or content. And in order to do that, we have to reach that place. Because we're women of a certain age, we've got the time usually to work on ourselves to get to that place. And then our path becomes clear.
Thank you for sharing those 6 things with us. If we thought about it, we could probably all pinpoint something like that and know that those are needs, but there is something of value to putting things into concise words like that, and being able to really look at them and recenter them and use them in our life. So thank you for sharing those. I think that was very valuable. Before we close today, I would love for you to just share with people where they can find more of you. And first of all, you alluded that you have a quilt shop, which I think is so fun. I love fabric. I love sewing. So when I learned that about you, I had this little instant connection, just thought, oh,
well,
anyway.
I turned 50 and I do a lot of other things too, but Steve says, I always wanted to have a fabric shop, because I was a sewer, but then I'd taken up quilting. And so that was my dream, to have a quilt shop. So we built this little red barn on the farm, and it's grown into, I've got 2 levels now. It's a big store. We're sort of the place to go in our area. We ship to the United States, to England, all over Canada. We've shipped to France. We're quite, so it's nutsforbolts.com. So that's the quilt shop. And it's fun. It's pink. I hate pink. I'm not a pink person, but in the color theory world, it was very thoughtful, because if you put pink and a gray ceiling and pink with all these windows, the fabric pops. It doesn't sort of. So anyway, that's that life. But I can be found. Actually, my website is up. It's JackieSwainsonCoach.com. So I can be found that. I'm in the LDS family directory. I do have an Instagram page. It's Jackie Lee Swainson. And I have a Facebook page, which is called Everyday Greatness. And that's one of the things when I send out newsletters, it's called Everyday Greatness, because we are great. We can be great, and we can be great every day by small and simple things or great things brought to pass. And we think of being great as something that it's not. A great life is a life that's well lived in those private moments every day, by doing the things that are good. And so I would suggest, you probably have a great life. I have a great life, and I'm stepping into my greatness right now, because, and that's not a statement of boast, but to understand that I'm not going to change the world and be a movie star and be famous. That's not what greatness is. Greatness is living consistently and constantly true to your values, and by doing small things every day that contribute to your life and the lives of others. So I focus on little things like that in my newsletter when you sign up for it. So I believe in everyday greatness. And I believe we're at a stage in life as women, as we 40s, 50s, 60s and beyond, that we can do great things, and we will do great things. And so when you're 20 and 30 and 40, my advice would be to live your life with intent, and always take care of your spiritual well-being. A lot of women reach this stage of life and they feel spiritually empty, because they haven't refilled. They've given so much that they haven't allowed stuff to be, allowed the Spirit to refill them. But because we have to do that part, we have to work at that part. And that is, for me, that is the most important part of me. And if I'm off kilter spiritually and I've let myself go, my whole world knows it. And, the kids will say, Mom, when did you read the scriptures last? Mom, you're kind of tilting the boat a little bit, and so there's people that know that for me, I have to have that center. And I think we all need that connection, whether you're religious or not. You need to have a connection and a belief that there's something greater than yourself.
for many reasons, but I think for me, recognizing that there's something greater for me gives me so much courage to move forward every single day, because there's somebody kind of blazing the trail, and there's something for me, and it'll feel different for everybody. But for me, it's nice to recognize that I'm not doing this alone, that there's somebody who's helping me and knows better than I do what I need and what I can do. So anyway, thank you so much, Jackie, for being here today. I have really found this conversation delightful. And I found myself also chuckling, wondering, would your grandmother have been appalled at me saying how old I was? Was my age the point where she would have been like, oh no, honey, you shouldn't be telling people that you're 47.
No, honey, you should not have said that. And she was like that all the time, and she would be like a woman of a certain age. She was,
I love it.
She had the gloves. I've got all her furs,
so proper,
and her costume jewelry. And it's like, she's with me all the time, because that is something, well, because of temple work and family history, and because of my beliefs, but just a woman of a certain age, we're just certain. Yeah. But I changed it to be like, I'm a certain woman. When I heard that talk at General Conference a little while ago about a certain woman, that really resonated with me. So
kind of gave some new meaning to it for you.
It did. It did.
I love it. I love it.
So welcome
Thank
to the
you.
Certain Woman Club.
Yeah.
It's a great club.
I think it sounds exciting. So
it is. It really is.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Jackie. It's been great.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you for having me. I enjoyed it. I'm enjoying getting to know you, Heather. Thank you.
So fun. Have a great day, everybody. Hey, we just wanted to thank you for spending part of your day here with us at Latter-day Life Coaches and being part of this conversation. Share this with your friends so that you can have a conversation with them on this topic as well. And as always, subscribe so you don't miss a single episode. Have a good one, my friends.